Hello, my fellow Americans and other viewers. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One. What we have here is failure to communicate. You see, over the past couple of days, I've talked to my friends all over the country. I've been chatting with YouTube people. Everybody has an opinion over this Black Lives Matter. But the thing is, nobody's listening to each other. And that's the problem. Failure to communicate. I tried to point that out. And people, they have made up their minds. They've closed their ears. Their position is dug in. And I'm just trying to lend some logic and reason to a very emotional situation. And the thing is, if there's no listening, there's no communication. I recently took a class on challenging behaviors. First thing I was taught was all behavior is about meeting a need. And if you pause and ponder that, you'll see there's a lot of truth in that statement. All behavior is to meet a need. Part of the problem, or a big part of the problem is, as I mentioned on an earlier video, is that there's a lot of distraction and distortion going on. Facts, figures are distorted, and other topics are being brought in to change the main topic, take the focus off the main topic. So when the Black Lives Matter people start talking about cops killing blacks, there's always black on black crime, blacks kill more black, black baby abortions. Let me give you an analogy. If I'm not mistaken, heart disease is the #1 killer in this country. Now we've got cancer and we got diabetes. Well, if heart disease is the #1 killer, then shouldn't everybody, all doctors, all research be focused on heart disease? Forget about cancer, forget about diabetes, forget about all the rest. Let's just focus on heart disease. Does that make sense to you? Doesn't that sound pretty absurd? Now, somebody's going to probably say, oh, it's different. You see, that's when communication breaks down. When one person points out a similarity and somebody else tries to point out a difference, there's no communication. There's no meshing. You have to stick to one topic. Isn't that easy to understand? So, when the Black Lives Matter people or anybody starts talking about cops killing blacks, can we just stick to that subject? Can we find a solution? Can we find a cure? Because otherwise, it's like I said, we should only be focused on heart disease. Forget Alzheimer's, forget Lou Gehrig's, forget, Crohn, all those, forget about it, because no, we should only be focusing on this one thing. That you would be laughed out of medical, nobody would listen to you. So, you see, that's what's going on. Now, the other part of communication, which is something I learned in another class recently, it's called working together. Chances are you're an adult, I'm an adult. I'm assuming you have all your cognitive abilities. That when you make a choice or decision or take an action, you fully understand the consequences of your choices, decisions, and actions. And if that be true, If that's the case, then you are allowed to make your decisions even if they're poor decisions. Even if I think it's bad judgment. You're allowed to do that. I've got no say in the matter. So, if I tell you not to smoke because it's bad for you, but you want to light up, it's just like you're going to look at me like, who do you think you are? I'm an adult. I do what I want. But for some strange reason, when it comes to Black Lives Matter, or really whenever it comes to blacks and discussions brought up by blacks, somebody else usually wants to change the topic and tell them, no, you should be doing something else. Well, no. They're saying you're exercising poor judgment. Well, what gives you the right to tell me whether or not my judgment's poor? So you see, that's what's going on. Failure to communicate. Because the thing is, what's the message? What's the need that these people are saying? They need to feel safe rather than threatened when dealing with police officers, dealing with cops. I mean, that's not an unreasonable request. But I was talking to a friend of mine last night. Shout out to you, Joe. And I asked him, I said, Joe, are you afraid of the police? I mean, if they pulled over, are you in fear? He goes, no. It took him a while, but I said, Joe, yes or no? He goes, no. I go, well, see, Joe, we're different because when I get pulled over, yeah, I'm afraid. I'm not necessarily afraid they're going to shoot me, but I'm afraid that somehow they're going to wrap me up, get me entangled in a system where I know my chances of winning, even if I'm right, are slim and none. How would you like to feel like that for your entire life? It's not a good feeling, let me tell you. Especially when these are the people who are paid by my tax dollars and your tax dollars. They're paid to serve and protect. But I was just listening to Rush Limbaugh, and he's going on, and he's talking about, you know, how when he was a little boy, he was driving in the car, his father got pulled over, and he just kept going, yes sir, to the cop, because the cop is an authority figure. And I'm listening to that, and I'm thinking, you know, the cops are supposed to work for us. Yeah, they're supposed to be respectful to me. They should be telling me, calling me sir. Sir, may I see your license, sir? It should be that kind of interaction. They should be showing me respect. Because if they show me respect, am I going to show them respect? It shouldn't be on me. They're the ones stopping me. They're the ones interrupting me doing what I was doing. So even if I was doing something wrong, when they pull me over and they stop me, they should approach me with respect. But that's usually not the case. No, I believe they're trained to try and intimidate, if I'm not mistaken. They want to take control of the situation, and to do that, they want to be intimidating. Well, you see, it's almost a lose from the get-go if that's their approach. But the bottom line, the takeaway from this video is that until there's communication, there's not going to be solution. You have to understand when there's distraction going on. You have to put things back on the topic. You have to make sure the person talking to you, they need to be heard. If they're talking, they have a need to be heard. Why else would they be talking? It's just that simple. But when you tell them their message is wrong, and that's what you do when you say, well, what about something else? You're saying, well, you're focused on the wrong thing. That's a judgment. That's not hearing. That's not empathy. That's not listening for understanding. And see, that's what's not happening here. That's why there's no communication. So, my fellow Americans, wake up and smell the tyranny.